The joke of the galaxy, the great galactic senate, hall echoed with laughter. Ambassadors of 100 species sat in their golden chairs, staring down at the one person who stood alone, Ambassador Reyna from Earth. She stood straight, her hands behind her back, her eyes calm. But around her, the room was filled with mocking smiles and cruel whispers. She comes from a dirt planet, one alien said, his voice high and sharp. Still using metal ships, I bet. Another laughed. They eat meat like beasts. Third one snorted. Reyna said nothing. She had come to speak on behalf of humanity. Earth had finally met the conditions to apply for full trade and defense rights within the Galactic Council. It should have been a historic moment. Instead, it was. A circus chairman Vakto, a tall blue-skinned leader with 4 eyes, stood and raised his hand. The crowd slowly fell silent. He looked at Reyna with a grin too wide for his face. "Ambassador of Earth," he said in a mocking tone, "your request is denied. You are too primitive." The crowd roared again. Reyna didn't flinch. She simply tilted her head slightly and smiled, not the smile of someone broken, but the kind of smile that made a few senators stop laughing. She stepped forward and spoke into the floating mic. "You'll remember us," she said. That was all. She turned and walked out. Back on Earth, the sun was setting over the Andes Mountains. Reyna's shuttle touched down on a flat platform near a mountain cliff. Waiting for her was Admiral Juno, a tall man with gray hair and dark eyes. He saluted as she walked toward him. "How bad?" Juno asked. "They called us animals," Reyna said. "They laughed." Juno didn't blink. "Do we start it?" She nodded once. "It's time." He pulled out a small black device, no larger than a coin. He pressed it. Across the world, signals were sent. Deep beneath the oceans, under deserts, inside old volcanoes, something old and secret began to move. 3 miles beneath the Atlantic Ocean, a giant metal chamber lit up. Machines that had slept for decades came alive. A voice echoed through the cold steel halls. Ghost Fleet activation code confirmed. Powering up systems. Inside the chamber, a warship sat still. Its shape was sleek and long, its surface covered in a strange black metal that absorbed light. It had no name written on it, only a code. NX Revenant. The next morning, Earth was quiet on the outside. Cities woke up, people went to work. But under the surface, things had changed. A council of humans gathered in a dark room. Screens showed images of alien planets, defense systems, and enemy fleets. "We built the Ghost Fleet in silence," Juno said. "Not to start a war, but to end one before it begins." They all nodded. Reyna stood beside him. "We have never been primitive," she said. "We've just been quiet." She turned to a younger officer. "Report on the Revenant?" "It's ready. Full stealth is online. No known species has the tech to detect it." "And the other ships?" "4 others ready to deploy. All invisible. All armed." Juno smiled. "Then let the galaxy play their games. Let them laugh." He looked out the window at the stars. They won't be laughing long. Above Earth's orbit, 5 invisible warships silently slipped away into the blackness of space. No engine trails, no signals. Nothing. They moved like shadows, ghosts in the stars. Their destination, Virel Prime, the capital of the Galactic Senate. But no one knew yet. The galaxy still believed. Earth was weak, primitive, powerless. But humanity had one rule: never show your sharpest blade until it's time to strike. Asterisk above the dark side of the moon. Nothing moved. Or so it seemed. Then, in perfect silence, a ripple appeared in the stars. The ripple grew, and something massive began to take shape, slowly revealing itself. Like a shadow crawling into the light. It was the NX Revenant, humanity's most powerful warship. But it wasn't alone. Beside it, one by one, more ships began to appear, not to the eye, not to the sensors, but to something deeper, to the feeling in your bones that something ancient was watching. The Ghost Fleet had awakened. Inside the command deck of the Revenant, Admiral Juno stood with his arms crossed. The room was filled with soft red lights, and a quiet hum echoed through the walls. The crew moved quickly but calmly, each one knowing they were part of something bigger than history. All systems online, the AI voice said. Cloaking engaged. Galactic signal scan active. We are undetectable. Juno nodded. How long until arrival at Virel Prime? 3 jumps, said Commander Lena, a young woman with a steady gaze. We will be in orbit in under 48 hours. Juno walked forward and stared at the stars ahead. They think we are still down there, he said quietly. Still arguing, still healing, still reaching for the stars. Lena looked at him. They still think we're weak. Juno smiled. Good. Far across the galaxy, in a heavily guarded command room on Virel Prime, a strange report flashed. On a screen, no ship ID, no energy trail, no warp signature. A technician scratched his head. It's a ghost signal, sir. Just a glitch, the officer replied. But as he turned off the screen, he failed to see the silent code scrolling down the margin. Revenant, observing. Back on Earth, Ambassador Reyna walked into a chamber that didn't appear on any map. Inside was a single chair, surrounded by a glowing blue ring. She sat down. A moment later, she wasn't on Earth anymore, at least not fully. A projection of her image appeared inside the Revenant's war room. Admiral Juno nodded at her. Ambassador. Admiral, Reyna replied. Are we ready? Juno's face was calm, but his voice was cold. We are already there. Watching. Recording. Reyna leaned forward. Then make sure they know. This is not an attack. This is a reminder. A reminder of what? Juno asked. Reyna's smile returned sharp and quiet. That Earth remembers. Above Virel Prime, the stars twinkled softly. Citizens moved through their cities, proud of their towers and shields. But they didn't know high above, just beyond their sight, 5 human warships floated in complete silence. The Ghost Fleet had arrived. Not a single species in the galaxy could detect them. They hovered above the galactic capital like ancient gods, watching, recording, waiting. Inside the Revenant, Juno sat in the command chair. Are we visible to them? He asked. No, replied Lena. Not even a shadow. Juno tapped the armrest slowly. Let's show them what a primitive species can do. The crew launched small drones. They slipped through Virel Prime's defenses like whispers in the dark. They recorded Senate meetings, military plans, secrets. They found arrogance. They found weakness, and they sent it all back to Earth. Then came the final test. Decloak for 3 seconds, Juno ordered. Above their Capitol building. No weapons, just presence. 3, 2, 1. And just like that, the sky over Virel Prime changed. For 3 seconds, a massive shadow blocked out the sun. People screamed. Sensors lit up. Ships scrambled. And before anyone could act, the shadow was gone. Nothing on their systems. No evidence. No identity. Only one message, burned into the sky by light particles. We were watching. Now we're here. Panic spread. Like wildfire. News broke across the galaxy. Unknown warship appears above galactic capital. Council worlds in shock. Was this Earth? Is humanity stronger than we thought? But Earth said nothing. The Ghost Fleet vanished again. Cloaked in silence. Inside the Revenant, Lena looked at Juno. What now? He smiled. Now we wait. Hook opening scene. Admiral Rollick of the Zinthri Empire stood on the bridge of his battleship, smiling confidently. Earth? Primitive savages. One fleet, and they're done. But 30 minutes after launch, all contact with his warships disappeared. No signals, no wreckage, no survivors. Just silence. And above Virel Prime, a shadow watched. Inside the Galactic Council's emergency chamber, panic ruled the room. One by one, leaders of powerful species shouted into the air. Who attacked the Zenthari fleet? Why are our sensors blind in Sector 12? Is Earth behind this? But Earth had no warships near Sector 12. Not officially. Chairman Voktal slammed his hand down. This is impossible. Earth has no such power. Ambassador Reyna's image appeared on a secure comm screen. She didn't yell. She didn't argue. She just said, "You told us we were primitive, so you never bothered to look deeper." And then the screen went dark. In deep space, between Virel Prime and Earth, wreckage floated in silence. But there were no burn marks, no energy signatures, no signs of impact. As if something had taken the ships apart, atom by atom. Galactic scientists were baffled. Military commanders were terrified, because they didn't even know what they were fighting. Back aboard the Revenant, Admiral Juno watched the chaos unfold. They launched a fleet to invade Earth. It never even made it halfway. Commander Lena raised an eyebrow. Any survivors? None, Juno said calmly. Our ships never fired a shot. Lena blinked. What? Their fleet destroyed itself, he explained. Once our ghost fleet jammed their AI systems, their ships turned. On each other? Lena stared at the screen. They killed themselves. Trying to kill us. Juno nodded. That's the power of silence. Let them fear shadows. On Virel Prime, emergency war meetings continued. Alien generals demanded retribution. They believed Earth had allies, secret weapons, forbidden technology. But they had no proof, because Earth had shown them. Nothing. Not even a name. Not a signal trace. Not a ship class. Just disappearance. On a distant world. The leader of the Alari people, once Earth's allies, smiled quietly. He whispered to his advisor, I warned them. Never mock a species who learn to survive alone. Ambassador. Reyna stood inside Earth's orbital command, watching the news feeds from across the galaxy. Species that once called humans backward were now holding emergency votes. Some wanted war. Some wanted peace. All were afraid. Reyna turned to the room. Now they're listening, not because we begged, but because we vanished their pride. One officer smiled. What do we do next? Reyna's eyes sparkled. We wait. They'll come to us now. Meanwhile, somewhere above Virel Prime, 5 cloaked warships sat still. Their weapons were cold. Their engines were silent. Their presence terrifying, and no one could see them. Back on the Revenant, Juno sat in silence as a secret transmission arrived. From Earth? Lena asked. No, Juno said, reading it. From the Council's Shadow Faction. Shadow Faction? Juno smiled slightly. There are always some who know the truth and wish to join it. Lena leaned in. They want peace? They want protection. Across the galaxy, change had begun. Earth had spoken not with weapons, but with disappearance. They had made the most powerful fleet in the galaxy vanish, without even showing themselves. And now, everyone wanted to know, who is humanity really? Asterisk hook. Opening scene. At exactly 3 o'clock Galactic Standard Time, every light in Virel Prime's capital city flickered out. No power. No sound. No warnings. Citizens looked up and froze out above them. A massive dark shape hovered, blocking out the stars. It made no noise. It gave no signal. Then, in glowing blue light across the sky, words appeared. Still think we're primitive? The panic began. Slowly, confused murmurs. uncertain stares, then screams. Sirens tried to activate but failed. Defense systems refused to power up. Communications were silent. And all across Varel Prime, one question echoed in every alien's mind. Who is doing this? Inside the Senate Tower, Chairman Voktol stared up through the transparent dome ceiling. The shape above was massive, larger than any ship in their records. It didn't shine. It didn't shimmer. It just existed. Identify that vessel. He shouted. No response. No ID. Our scanners are blind, replied the tech officer, his voice shaking. Then shoot it down. We can't. Nothing is locking. It's like it's not even real. Back aboard the NX Revenant, Admiral Juno stood with his arms behind his back. All eyes are on us, said Commander Lena. Juno nodded. Only for 10 more seconds. Message confirmed. Broadcast complete. He raised a single hand. Cloak. Above Varel Prime, a massive shadow vanished in an instant. No trace. No heat. No trail. Just silence. And fear across the galaxy. Every media channel exploded. Unidentified warship blocks capital sky. Message from the shadows. Is Earth behind this? The primitive planet that vanished our fleet now sending messages? The Galactic Council called for an emergency lockdown. But it was too late. The image had already spread. Billions had seen it, and Earth had said, nothing. In Earth's orbital control, Ambassador Reyna reviewed a dozen live feeds. They're finally asking the right question, she said. A junior officer blinked. Which one? She turned to him, eyes steady. They're no longer asking if we're a threat. They're asking how long we've been one. On Varel Prime, the council was cracking. Some members demanded immediate war. Others wanted to beg Earth for peace, but no one agreed, because no one knew who to speak to. Earth didn't answer messages, didn't threaten, didn't ask for permission. They just appeared. At a secret meeting of the Zilari Intelligence Division, analysts reviewed the light-based message. There were no projectors, no transmission lines. It was written in atmospheric particles. That kind of tech doesn't exist, whispered one. A senior officer stood. It does now. Meanwhile, Earth's ghost fleet remained invisible, watching, listening. Every planet that had ever mocked humanity now found strange signals around their skies, strange disruptions. Brief shadows, static in their feeds. Fear began to grow. Not because Earth attacked, but because no one knew when they would, or if they already had. Back in the council chamber, Chairman Voktol smashed a datapad. This is madness. They're just humans. A quiet voice from the corner replied, maybe they were, but we never checked if they stayed that way. Everyone turned. It was Elder Yelena, one of the oldest races in the galaxy. She stood slowly, her wrinkled face serious. You laughed at them when they first appeared, when they asked to trade, when they asked to join. But they asked politely. She paused. And now they've stopped asking. Back on Earth, Reyna stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots marked old enemies. Blue dots marked allies. But there were new dots now, gray ones, the uncertain, the watchers, the ones starting to ask, should we stand with Earth before it's too late? Juno appeared beside her. The fear is working, Reyna nodded. It's not fear. It's respect, finally. Above another alien world, a different ship from the Ghost Fleet flickered briefly into view, just long enough to be seen. Before vanishing. And across the stars, a message followed. We asked once. You laughed. Now we're watching. Hook, opening scene. Admiral Grovak of the Trinari Empire stood before the Galactic War Council, his metal fists clenched. They're mocking us. A primitive planet dares to threaten our capital? Enough. We launch everything. All fleets, all weapons, we erase Earth by morning. But as the orders were signed, Earth already knew. Inside a cold and dark operations room beneath Antarctica, red lights blinked on one by one. Hundreds of screens showed alien faces in secret meetings, private calls, strategic maps. Panic.Earth was not watching from the outside anymore. They were inside the networks, inside the war rooms, inside the satellites, inside the minds of the enemy. On board the NX Revenant, Admiral Juno received the encrypted message. Lena read it aloud. 12 enemy fleets have begun movement. 5 are targeting Earth. 7 are moving toward colonies. Juno looked calm. Any of them know we're listening? Lena shook her head. No, they believe their systems are secure. He smiled. Then let's send them a reminder. Ours. Later, 12 admirals from across the galaxy received identical messages on their private devices, classified data, personal conversations, hidden crimes. All recorded, all tagged, all sent from a location marked only as Earth OBCING. Some broke into a cold sweat. Some ordered a pause in attack, but others, filled with pride, still ordered the fleets to continue. They would learn the hard way. In deep space, one of the fleets approached Earth's colony on Kepler 9. The commander activated his weapon systems. Lock on target. But before his ship could fire, every console went black. Then red. Then blue. A message appeared across the bridge. You wanted to see US. Now look up. The crew turned their heads toward the observation window. The stars were gone. Something massive hovered just above them. Then it vanished, and so did their ship's power. From orbit, the other enemy ships watched in horror as the command ship vanished. No explosion. Just a blink gone. Back on Earth, Ambassador Reyna stood in front of a global broadcast screen. Do we respond? Her advisor asked. She shook her head. We already did. The advisor looked confused. Reyna stepped forward, speaking calmly. To those who sent fleets against us, you've made your move. To those who hesitated, we noticed. To those who waited and watched, we remember. She smiled. The galaxy has a choice now, retaliation or reckoning. On Varel Prime, panic became policy. Every leader now had to answer their people's question. Are we next? Inside the Galactic Intelligence Tower, someone played a recording of Earth's broadcast 10 times in a row. An agent whispered to her commander. They are not fighting a war. The commander turned. Then what are they doing? She stared into the glowing screen. They are proving a point. The Ghost Fleet moved without sound. No fire. No death. Just presence. Enough to cause entire governments to freeze. Enough to shake empires. And then came Earth's final act for now. A signal, soft but clear, echoed into the galactic network. A simple image. A human hand holding a single white flower, floating in space. Beneath it, words in every galactic language. We came in peace. You chose war. Now we choose silence. In silence, fear grows. In silence, guilt is heard. And in silence, humanity watched and waited. Hook. Opening scene. Every screen in the galaxy went black. No news. No feeds. No emergency broadcast. Just silence. Then a face appeared. Human. Female. Kong. Ambassador Reyna. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She simply said, we never wanted this. But you made us remember who we are. Across billions of homes, alien citizens stopped and listened. It wasn't just a transmission. It was everywhere at once. Every ship, every station, every planet. Reyna continued. You laughed at us. You called us animals. You said we didn't belong in the stars. She paused. Then said, but the stars are exactly where we were born to be. Inside the war chambers of the Galactic Council, chaos froze. Generals who had signed invasion orders watched in silence. Some swallowed hard. Others clenched their fists, because deep down, they knew Earth had won without firing a shot. On the NX Revenant, Admiral Juno watched the broadcast to. He didn't interrupt. He didn't command, because this was the final play. Words. Truth. A. Human voice louder than any weapon. Back on the screen, Reyna walked slowly as she spoke. Her voice echoed through every device, soft but firm. We offered peace. You gave us mockery. We asked for friendship. You gave us spies. We showed kindness. You showed teeth. She looked straight at the camera. And now, you see us. Across the stars, many species fell into quiet debate. Some whispered, maybe Earth was right. Others asked, how long have they been this strong? And some, for the first time, felt respect for humanity, not out of fear, but out of understanding. Then Reyna did something unexpected. She smiled and said, we're not your enemy. We're not your rulers. We're just human. She held up her hand. 5 fingers, open palm. This is what peace looks like. It's not a fist. It's a choice. She took one deep breath. Make the right one. The screen went dark. The message lasted only 2 minutes, but it changed everything. Inside the council, silence fell for a full hour. Then one by one, the leaders began to speak, not of war, not of punishment, but of talking. In secret corners of the galaxy, rebel leaders, scientists, and spies who once laughed at Earth began sending messages. How did you build that fleet? How long? Have you been this advanced? What do you want? And Earth still said nothing, because they didn't need to speak anymore. Their silence had already answered everything. Back in Earth's orbital HQ, Reyna walked into the control center. Juno stood waiting. They listened, he said. For now, Reyna replied. They're scared. They're curious, she corrected. Fear fades. Curiosity doesn't. Lena stepped forward with a report. Multiple factions want to send envoys to Earth. Trade. Apologies. Treaties. Juno raised an eyebrow. And we allow it? Reyna smiled again. That same quiet smile from the day they mocked her. Let them come. Let them see who we really are. And far above Earth, the ghost fleet remained cloaked. Not in anger. Not in hate. But in readiness. Because peace is a choice, but protection is instinct. Hook. Opening scene. The Galactic Council met in silence. No laughter. No shouting. No pride. Because Earth had said nothing for 6 days. No answer. No response. Only silence. And that silence felt louder than war. On the 7th day, the skies above Virel Prime cracked open again. But this time, there was no warning. Just light. Brilliant white light filled the sky. And slowly, shapes began to appear, 7 of them. Earth's ghost fleet had returned. But this time, they were visible, and their shields were down. Inside the NX Revenant, Admiral Juno gave the order. Decloak. All ships. Hold position. No weapons charged. Lena hesitated. Sir, they might attack. They won't, Juno said softly. They're not breathing right now. And he was right. Across Virel Prime, across the Council worlds, across billions of screens, the galaxy stared in silence. They had never seen ships like these. Sleek, silent, no seams, no visible engines. Alien in design, but undeniably human. Inside the council chamber, Chairman Vakhtol rose slowly to his feet. For the first time in his life, he didn't speak, because he had nothing left to say. A voice came through every system. Calm, Clear, familiar. This is Earth. We are no longer asking to be part of your world. We are telling you, we already are. Ambassador. Reyna appeared in hologram form before every council leader. She stood still, unarmed. Alone. Her voice carried no anger. Only truth. You laughed when we reached out. You ignored us when we asked for friendship. You tried to destroy us when we stayed quiet. She looked into the camera, but we survived. We learned. We built. We watched. On every screen, a live view of Earth appeared. Green forests, oceans, cities. Then, something more. The Cradle Project, a space station, the size of a moon. New, unknown, beautiful, floating just beyond the moon's orbit. Reyna continued, we are not here for war, but we will never kneel again. We are not your pets. We are not your children. We are not your mistake. We are human, and the stars are ours too. The message ended. The holograms faded. The ships stayed. Silent. They didn't fire. They didn't move. They simply hovered there, watching. In the next hour, 47 worlds signed a declaration. Peace with Earth, open trade, recognition as a sovereign power. That wasn't the most shocking part. It was what didn't happen. Earth didn't take revenge, didn't demand territory, didn't destroy anyone. They just stood tall. And waited. Until the galaxy looked at them with respect. Not fear, not hatred. Just truth. Inside the Enix Revenant, Lena turned to Juno. Sir? They're all standing. Down. Juno looked at the view of Earth. No, they're standing up. Finally. Back on Earth, Reyna stood before a crowd of humans gathered under a darkening sky. She raised her hand and simply said, we did not conquer the stars. We reminded them we belonged in them. The crowd roared. And far beyond Earth, in the deepest corners of the galaxy, the story of humanity began to change. No longer the forgotten species. No longer the joke of the stars. Now a legend. And that is the day the galaxy held its breath and finally understood who we truly were. The end. Asterisk.